picture this scenario, right? It is 10 p.m. You've had just a relentless, completely draining day.
Oh, we have all been there.
Yeah, you are finally horizontal on your couch, and your thumb is just hovering over a glowing food delivery menu on your phone.
The danger zone.
Literally the danger zone. And, on the left side of the screen, you have this vibrant, nutrient-dense salad. You know exactly what it represents, right?
Yeah.
Health, vitality, doing the sensible thing.
Right, the adult choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then on the right side of the screen, there's a pizza. A bubbling, perfectly charred, just heavily layered pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, what are you choosing? Because today we are taking a deep dive into the ultimate daily dilemma, health versus taste.
It is the great culinary conflict.
It really is. We're going to explore the psychology of why we eat what we eat, the biological traps waiting for us, and how to strike a balance without completely losing our minds.
Which is key, yeah.
And just to set the tone, I will admit something right up front. I deeply, desperately want to be the person who always taps the screen for the salad. But, 9 times out of 10, I'm choosing the pizza.
Well, a lot of people are choosing the pizza. The fact that this specific battle plays out in millions of living rooms every single night tells us something important.
That we're all just weak?
No, not at all. It tells us this is not a localized failure of individual willpower. We aren't here to moralize about your diet or pass judgment.
Thank goodness, because I'd be in trouble.
Right. We are looking at the underlying mechanisms here. The brain's struggle to make this seemingly simple choice is it's incredibly revealing about how human neurobiology is actually structured.
Okay, so let's unpack the mechanics of this conflict then. Because instead of rehashing, basic definitions of what a vegetable is, the sources really look at what these two categories represent to our brains.
Yes, exactly.
The research frames healthy food, fundamentally, as a long-term investment for cellular energy. But on the flip side, tasty food, the pizzas, the burgers, the heavily spiced street food that functions primarily to deliver instant happiness.
And that framing, that instant happiness versus long-term investment, that defines the core tension.
It makes so much sense when you put it like that.
Right, because when you choose the salad, you are essentially asking your brain to prioritize avoiding heart disease or, maintaining your mobility 3 decades from now.
Which is really hard for the brain to care about on a Tuesday night.
Exactly. The human brain struggles immensely with abstract, delayed rewards. But when you smell a pizza, the intense flavors, the fats, the spices, that triggers a massive immediate release of dopamine.
Instant gratification.
Yes, it is a tangible, visceral reward happening right this second.
I look at it almost like a financial mismatch, honestly. Choosing the salad is like carefully putting $20 a week into a Roth IRA.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right, like it secures your future. But today, in this exact moment, it feels like doing paperwork. There is absolutely no thrill.
Zero thrill in a Roth IRA.
None. The pizza, meanwhile, is like finding a crisp $100 bill on the sidewalk and immediately spending it at a carnival. You get the lights, the sounds, the roller coaster ride of flavor immediately.
And, that carnival analogy maps remarkably well onto our evolutionary biology.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, for the vast majority of human history, calories were scarce, they were unpredictable. So when our ancient ancestors stumbled upon something dense in fat and energy, the brain rewarded them with that massive dopamine hit.
To make sure they actually ate it.
Yes, to encourage them to consume as much of it as possible right then and there. That instinct is literally what kept our species alive during extended famines.
Okay, wait. I struggle with this evolutionary argument just a little bit.
Sure, what part?
If we are simply hardwired to seek out calories for survival, why do we fiercely crave these highly processed, artificially flavored foods that didn't even exist 100 years ago? A prehistoric human didn't evolve eating pepperoni pizza or neon orange cheese puffs?
No, they didn't, but modern food science has essentially hijacked those ancient survival circuits.
Oh, hijack them.
Completely. We crave modern, highly processed foods because they represent an exaggerated, hyper-concentrated version of what our ancestors sought out in nature.
So it's like a super stimulus.
Exactly. When food engineers combine fats, sugars, and salts in ratios that rarely occur naturally, they create a stimulus that overwhelms the brain's regulatory systems.
So my brain thinks a cheese puff is a survival jackpot.
Yes, your brain interprets the pizza not just as a meal, but as hitting the ultimate evolutionary jackpot. The neurochemistry doesn't know you sit at a computer all day. It assumes a brutal winter is coming, and you need to stock up immediately.
Wow, so the brain is preparing for an ice age that just never arrives.
That's a perfect way to put it. And furthermore, dopamine is often misunderstood merely as the pleasure chemical.
Right, isn't it the thing that makes us feel good?
It does, but its primary function is actually motivation and anticipation.
Oh, interesting.
So when you are looking at the menu on your phone, you haven't even tasted the pizza yet, but your brain recognizes the visual cue. It recalls the combination of ingredients and the dopamine spikes simply from the anticipation.
Which intensely motivates you to acquire the food before you've taken a single bite.
Exactly. It drives the behavior.
Okay, so we have this ancient dopamine-driven programming pushing us toward the carnival. But we do possess logical faculties.
We do.
We know the medical facts. We know the salad is a better long-term investment for our physical infrastructure.
Right.
Why does that logic fall apart so spectacularly in the real world?
Well, the research points to a few specific saboteurs, starting with the social dynamics of eating.
Oh, the social traps. Like, picture this. You're at home, you're highly motivated, prepping a lean, healthy meal.
You're doing everything right.
Yeah, and then a friend texts you and says, hey, I'm coming over. Let's order a pizza.
And suddenly, your pristine diet plan just evaporates.
It vanishes immediately. Why is it so difficult to control that craving when someone else suggests it?
That sudden evaporation happens because human beings rarely use food purely as cellular fuel. It functions as a primary social lubricant.
Social lubricant.
Yes, when your friend suggests ordering a pizza, they aren't just offering you a combination of refined carbohydrates and dairy. They are initiating a shared ritual.
Like bonding.
Exactly. If you think back to early human societies again, food acquisition was dangerous. It was labor-intensive. When a hunt was successful, the entire tribe gathered around the fire to consume the calories together.
Oh, wow. So eating together became this evolutionary signal of safety.
Safety, trust, and shared resources, yes.
So when my friend brings over a pizza, my brain subconsciously views it as a successful hunt we are sharing by the fire.
You are participating in tribal cohesion. Rejecting the pizza can unconsciously signal a rejection of the social connection itself.
Wait, so my brain thinks I'm rejecting my friend if I eat my meal prep salad?
In a way, yes. You are pulling yourself out of the communal experience, which introduces a subtle, uncomfortable social friction. And overcoming that friction requires significantly more cognitive effort than simply resisting a solo craving.
You're not just saying no to the calories, you were saying no to the bonding experience.
Precisely.
That makes the overwhelming urge to just split the pizza makes so much more sense. But what about when we are completely alone?
Right, the solo cravings.
Yeah, we can't blame social pressure for every late-night delivery order. The analysis points to an even more insidious saboteur, which is emotional eating.
This is a huge one.
Right. It highlights how frequently we eat when we aren't metabolically hungry at all, driven primarily by emotional states like stress or just profound boredom.
Stress serves as the most universal trigger for this behavior. Let's look at the mechanics of what stress actually does to the body.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you are under pressure, maybe you're navigating a high-stakes project at work or managing financial anxiety, your nervous system enters a state of high alert.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. Your adrenal glands release a cascade of stress hormones, primarily cortisol.
But, I mean, a double cheeseburger doesn't actually fix a high-stakes project.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't pay a single bill.
Yeah.
So why are we reaching for intense flavors and spices when we are stressed? Are we essentially using a deep dish pizza as an over-the-counter medication for anxiety?
You hit the nail on the head. You are self-medicating with sensory input. Cortisol is the fight or flight hormone, like you said. When you are stressed about a deadline, your brain doesn't differentiate between a looming email and a physical predator.
That's wild. It treats an email like a tiger.
Exactly. Cortisol signals your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream so your muscles have the explosive energy required to literally run away.
Except I'm just sitting frozen at my desk. I'm not running from a predator.
Oh, right. You sit there and you don't burn the glucose physically, but your brain registers that a massive energy expenditure just happened or is about to happen and sends out an urgent physiological signal to replenish your fuel stores immediately.
So it demands calories because it thinks I just sprinted for my life.
Yes. And beyond the biological demand for calories, there's a profound psychological component. High cortisol levels feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh, they feel awful.
Your brain desperately seeks a way to regulate that discomfort, looking for a rapid escape from the psychological pressure. The intense flavors, rich textures, and spices of tasty food act as a powerful, temporary distraction.
It just monopolizes your attention.
Completely. For the 10 minutes you are eating that meal, your sensory processing is overwhelmed by the immediate pleasure of the flavor profile.
So it forces a cognitive timeout from the existential dread of your deadline.
Yes, it masks the symptoms of stress by overriding them with a massive spike in dopamine. And boredom functions through a similar mechanism, actually.
Really? Boredom causes a physical reaction.
When your environment lacks stimulation, your dopamine levels drop, leading to restlessness. Tasty food provides an immediate low-effort spike of sensory excitement to break the monotony.
Wow. Okay, so let's observe how this emotional and biological tug of war actually plays out in a normal 24-hour cycle.
Let's do it.
Because the research identifies a phenomenon that drives people absolutely crazy. I call it the nighttime trap.
Oh, the nighttime trap is so real.
Right. During the daytime, you could be a paragon of discipline. You eat your oatmeal, you choose the lean protein at lunch, you easily ignore the donuts sitting in the office break room.
You feel invincible.
Invincible. Then the sun goes down, and suddenly you are tearing through your kitchen cabinets looking for anything salty or sweet. Why is it practically impossible to resist taste when we are tired at the end of the day?
The daytime invincibility is an illusion created by a full cognitive tank. Willpower and discipline are not permanent personality traits. They are finite cognitive resources that deplete over time.
So they run out.
Think of the prefrontal cortex. That's the logical, long-term planning sector of your brain. Think of it as a cognitive bouncer at a busy nightclub.
Huh. I like this image. The bouncer's standing at the door of my brain, checking IDs, keeping the impulsive bad decisions out on the street.
Exactly. Early in the morning, that bouncer is fresh, highly alert, and doing a phenomenal job.
He's ready for work.
When the craving for a donut shows up at 10 a.m., the bouncer easily turns it away. But making decisions consumes tangible biological energy.
It actually burns calories.
Yes. The human brain makes up about 2% of your total body weight, but it consumes 20% of your daily energy intake.
That's a huge ratio.
And the prefrontal cortex is an absolute gas guzzler. Every time it has to override an impulse, it literally burns glucose. Every email you painstakingly draft, every time you bite your tongue in a frustrating meeting, and every time you choose a salad over a burger, your bouncer gets a little more exhausted.
So by 8 p.m., my bouncer has been working a brutal 12-hour shift. He is physically drained, and he just stops checking IDs at the door.
He abandons the post entirely.
He just walks away.
The door is wide open. This is the physiological reality of decision fatigue. By the evening, your logical brain simply lacks the metabolic energy required to suppress cravings.
Wow.
The primitive, survival-oriented part of your brain steps in and assumes control. And the primitive brain only cares about instant happiness and immediate caloric density.
This effect must be heavily amplified if you are actually physically hungry on top of being mentally exhausted.
Drastically amplified. If you spent the entire day heavily restricting your calories in the pursuit of health, your body registers the caloric deficit as a severe threat.
It sounds the alarm bells.
It demands immediate energy to replenish its reserves. When decision fatigue collides with genuine physical hunger at night, the desire for high-calorie, intensely flavorful food becomes an overpowering biological imperative.
Logic simply cannot compete with survival instincts.
It's an unfair fight.
Okay, so if our cognitive bouncer abandons us every night, and we are fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming, plus the social friction of rejecting shared meals, plus cortisol-demanding glucose dumps, how do we survive this?
It does sound like a lot, doesn't it?
The outlook seems incredibly bleak. But this is where the research pivots to actual solutions, thankfully.
Yes, there is hope.
Because the overarching theme isn't about white-knuckling your way through cravings or trying to acquire more willpower. It's about making smart choices and utilizing moderation.
Relying solely on willpower is a losing strategy in the long run. The true secret to navigating the health versus taste conflict is understanding that attempting to permanently banish tasty food from your life usually backfires catastrophically.
Yeah, the research specifically suggests actionable strategies, like eating junk food in moderation by intentionally saving it for the weekends.
Right.
And I know moderation sounds like basic advice you'd find in a checkout aisle magazine, but based on everything we've unpacked about the brain today, this is really a high-level psychological negotiation.
It acts as a neurological bargaining chip. Consider what happens when you attempt absolute restriction. If you vow to never eat your favorite pizza again, Your primitive brain registers profound scarcity.
It panics.
It panics. It fixates entirely on the forbidden food, elevating your baseline stress.
Oh.
But when you plan for a treat, when you tell yourself, I'm going to fully enjoy this meal on Saturday night, you eliminate the scarcity mindset.
So you calm the primitive brain down.
Exactly.
You're sending a signal that says, hey, don't panic. The carnival hasn't burned down. It's still there. We just have to wait a few days to buy a ticket.
You provide a predictable, delayed reward. This prevents the psychological pressure from building up to the point of an uncontrollable binge.
It's like a pressure cooker. If you ban all tasty food forever, the pressure builds until you explode and eat 5 pizzas.
Whoa.
Moderation lets the steam out safely.
That's a perfect analogy. You no longer feel chronically deprived. Because the primitive brain feels secure that a reward is coming, your cognitive bouncer doesn't have to work nearly as hard to fend off cravings during the week.
The second actionable strategy the research points out is creating healthier, homemade versions of the tasty foods you love.
Yes, this is very effective.
A specific example given is trying to cook those highly flavored meals, but intentionally using significantly less oil.
This represents a brilliant compromise between the two different value systems competing in your brain.
It seems like a way to hack the dopamine loop.
It really is.
You are still getting the intense spices, you are still experiencing the amazing smells, and you are getting that sensory distraction to relieve your cortisol levels.
Right, the instant happiness is delivered.
But because you control the environment, maybe you bake the food instead of deep frying it, or you modify the ingredients to increase the protein, you're quietly protecting your long-term investment in the background.
And mouthfeel and texture play a massive role here as well. The crunch of a specific food or the way it melts sends complex tactile signals to the brain that amplify dopamine release.
So texture matters just as much as taste.
Absolutely. By recreating those textures at home with modified ingredients, you satisfy the primitive brain's demand for a specific sensory experience without bankrupting your cellular health.
That's so smart.
A balanced diet doesn't mean punishing yourself or forcing down meals you actively dislike. It means engineering ways to enjoy the culinary experience while still honoring your body's functional need for quality energy.
It is about bridging the gap rather than forcing a strict, miserable binary choice.
Exactly.
I love the mechanics of this, the cognitive bouncer, the dopamine hacking, the realization that cortisol physically demands energy. It gives so much clarity to a struggle we all face.
It really normalizes it.
It does.
Yeah.
But I want to bring this abstract psychology back to a very visceral reality for you, the listener, and for us right now in this room.
Yeah.
Let's do a little ultimatum.
Oh boy. I have a feeling I know exactly where this is heading.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, let's hear it.
If I place a fresh, crisp, perfectly balanced, nutrient-dense salad right here on the desk between us, and right next to it, I place a hot, deeply savory, incredibly fragrant pizza with all of your favorite toppings. Honestly, right now, in this exact moment, what are you choosing?
Oh man, even knowing everything we just discussed about long-term investments, evolutionary survival circuits, and dopamine loops, I'm choosing the pizza.
I am 100% choosing the pizza, too. I wouldn't even hesitate.
No hesitation.
And acknowledging that is incredibly important. The research emphasizes this fundamental truth sometimes. Despite all your logical knowledge, taste is simply going to win.
And accepting that reality without guilt is a core component of achieving true balance.
Without guilt.
Right. When you drop the heavy moral judgment around food, a slip-up doesn't turn into a downward spiral. If you know that taste will occasionally win out, you can plan for it consciously.
You can enjoy the experience fully, rather than viewing it as a catastrophic failure of discipline that ruins your entire week.
Exactly. It's just one meal.
All right, let's synthesize everything we've covered today. We took a deep dive into the great culinary conflict, and we've seen that the choice between the salad and the pizza is never just about the physical food on the plate.
No, it is a complex, continuous psychological negotiation.
We unpacked how our evolutionary biology heavily biases us toward the instant happiness of flavor.
And how shared meals and cortisol spikes turn our favorite indulgent foods into potent social glue and rapid anxiety medication.
Yes. We looked at the mechanics of the nighttime trap, realizing that our cognitive bouncer physically runs out of glucose to check IDs by the end of the day.
He really needs a break.
He does. But we also mapped out the practical escape routes, using planned moderation as a neurological bargaining chip to prevent scarcity panic.
And hacking our cravings by modifying recipes at home.
Which allows us to protect our long-term health while still enjoying the carnival of taste. Good health absolutely remains your ultimate long-term investment. But you have to manage that portfolio smartly, leaving intentional room for some instant happiness along the way.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
To tie this all together, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you navigate your own choices. We've established that the late-night menu is the ultimate battleground, and that your cognitive defenses are at their lowest when you are stressed or bored.
So the question they should be asking themselves.
Right? What's the specific question they should be asking?
Ask yourself, what is your personal trigger?
Oh, that's good.
The next time you find yourself staring at that glowing screen at 10 p.m., desperate for a hit of instant happiness, pause for just a moment and ask what emotion is actually driving the craving.
Are you genuinely physically hungry, or are you just trying to escape a difficult feeling?
Exactly. And knowing that your willpower battery will inevitably deplete by the evening, what is one single smart choice you can make tomorrow afternoon to give your cognitive bouncer a helping hand?